Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Web3 and Chill. And in today's episode, we are collaborating with Web3 and Whiskey. So, quite a chilling whiskey session out there. We have with us Mr. Suresh Balaji, who is a senior marketing executive and the founder at Web3 Marketing Association. Also, he hosts Web3 and Whiskey. So, my first question, do you have a whiskey in your hand right now?
Man,
Or
I wish I did. I wish I did. You should have told me, right? I don't, but let's just have some imaginary metaverse whiskey, right? Let's just cheers to it. Virtual whiskey cheers.
So, Suresh, thanks for being here. And we have been a listener to your podcast. Uh, Amazing views. And we're looking forward to have some great discussion with you. To start with, what is Web3 Marketing Association? Why is it needed? There's so many marketing associations out there.
Yeah, good, really good question, right? So look, I think my love for Web3 happened during the COVID days, right? I think we were all locked at home. Instead of watching Netflix, I was trying to understand, um, you know, blockchain, cryptocurrency, what's happening with NFTs. I just so accidentally happened to, read the original paper written by Satoshi Nakamoto, right? So if anyone is in this Web3 space, you're not a true degen if you've not read that paper, right? As much as you can understand it, you read it, because there's a lot of, technical stuff inside it, but it is important to understand it. But what I learned from the paper was one line, right? Which is the future of the internet can actually is actually lies the future of the internet lies in the creation of digital assets, and people can own pieces of the internet. And that changed everything for me, right? I was like, what? How can you actually own a piece of the internet? Isn't the internet just a giant copy machine? Every time I send you a GIF, you can forward it on, it just copies and copies and copies. It's the infinite copy machine. But how can you actually own a piece of the internet? Was what that philosophical question was what drew me into it. That's where it all started. And then I would say either from there everything went up or everything went downward spiral, depending on which angle you see it from. If you ask my wife, she will say it all went downward spiral from there. We lost Suresh to Web3. If you ask my colleagues, they're going to say, "Wow, great! This guy started doing some cool Web3 shit." Right? So that's where it started. And as I progressed, right, and I thought the more conversations I had, I figured out that most of the Web3 use cases, initial Web3 use cases, were all marketing use cases, right? All the AR, VR use cases.
Yeah.
Even if you look at NFT use cases, it's about community building use cases. So in Web 2, we call audiences. In Web 3, we call community, right? In
Communities, yeah.
in Web 2, it is about trying to find a way of getting customers to spend more. Here, you're trying to ensure that everybody contributes more. So the kind of front tools were quite interesting and quite valid. And in many ways, I realized that Web3 was going to come in and change business models because of the creator economy. So I started talking to the point that you made. I think I started talking to some of the marketing associations and said, guys, what are you doing about this? I started talking to CMOs and saying, my counterparts, saying, guys, what are you doing about this? And they were all like, what is Web3? So this is 2021, right? Maybe early 2021. And I tried to get people to put Web3 on their meeting agendas. I tried to get them to have conversations about this with marketing associations, and they were not interested, right? They were all like, oh, yeah, we are doing this TV viewability test, or we are doing this omni-channel attribution, or hey, we are looking at partnering with one of the big social media giants to do a joint business plan. I'm like, guys, the future of the internet is changing. Let's do something about it. So nobody wanted to do anything. So I found three other co-founders. One, a chap called G-Man, who's now in Bangalore, who used to be in Dubai. G-Man runs a blockchain and an enterprise wallet company. A chap called Dave, who runs a fintech futures company, and a lady called Carrie, who runs a gaming company in New York. So it was a nexus of Hong Kong, Bangalore slash Dubai, London, New York. Four of us came together and we said we will create a not-for-profit organization. We incorporated in London, and we said we want to help more marketers understand what is Web3. So it was much more of a I need more marketers to come into play. And why do I think of, apart from the fact that the use cases are marketing, why do I want marketers to think about it, right? CMOs like me were asleep at the wheel when Web 2 happened, right? So why do I say that? Because we were all happy to say, hey, let's partner with this giant social media corporation. So happy they invited me to their conference. Oh yeah, I met them at Cannes. They took me out for lunch and they told me what development they're doing. And then the next thing we know, the internet is quite a shit place, right? We all hate what the internet is right now. I don't want to give the internet to my children. I don't want to give them access. It's full of harassment and bullying. There are so many stories of data theft of yours, and the big story is if you're getting any platform for free or any product for free, it's highly likely that you are the product,
Yeah.
right? So the future of data is going to change. I think we need self-sovereignty of data. We need the next generation of the internet to come to play. So very simply, the way I pitch Web3 Marketing Association to my colleagues and CMOs is we are this generation of marketers helping build the next generation of the internet. The next generation of the internet has to be way better than what it is now. It is the internet that we all will love, and it will create all the positive things that we want for future generations. So I'll stop there. That's where the Free Marketing Association came into play.
So do you think you're a little early or do you think you're on time? Because we don't see a lot of audience in the Web3 space.
Really good question, right? I think we are really early, which is really good, because by the time this gets to mainstream, we would have learned a lot. So all the people working in Web3 Marketing Association, we have nearly a dozen people now, all working pro bono, and we have a call every Monday night to talk about all the programs that we're building on. It is arguably in many weeks that's the best hour of my life, where we are truly dedicated towards the purpose of figuring out how do we solve for customer protection in the internet, how do we solve for no rug pulls, how do we solve for educating marketers, how do we solve for ensuring that all the players come to play, how do we solve for real participation economy, all of those things, how do we solve for an equitable future of marketing. And when we do podcasts, when we have these conversations, it's about progressing knowledge, right? So, but here's the thing, right? I think that there will always be, with new technologies, there will always be information asymmetry, right? Information is, there'll always be a few people who will know more than everyone else. But the key here is to ensure that people who know more than everyone else do not exploit the people who don't know. So knowledge shouldn't be the leverage for unfair value creation. So that is our view, and that's what we are trying to do, right? We are early, and we are happy that we are early, right? It's okay. I think we will like you guys are the OGs, right? From a Web3 perspective, you're already the OGs. From a marketing perspective, we are trying to get there.
Got it, got it. So I really loved when you say we are going to change the next generation of internet so that it became a place we all love. On that, how do you see larger giants like the likes of Meta and Google transitioning into Web3? Because if we see today, they were not early in the game, but as hype grew, Facebook changed its name to Meta. Recently, they have launched NFT as and termed it as digital collectibles. They have launched communities on WhatsApp. YouTube has opened its creator-led membership, which is kind of community. YouTube is launching creator-led NFT. So we also see this giant player playing in these spaces, not as good as some other Web3, but they do have the power of scale. They do have the power of scale. So how do you think how they are going to transit? What do you think on this?
Just to add,
Look,
right?
go
Sorry.
on.
Yeah. We want Web2 is centralized, and that's where we hate it a little bit. Whereas Web3, we want it to be more centralized. With these central forces coming into play, do you think it's good or it's bad?
Wow, really, really powerful question, right? Both good questions, right? Firstly, let's talk about the first part of the question, which is what is what are the big giant internet players going to do? And I think some of it will answer your second question, right? So firstly, Web3 is everything to do with the next generation of the internet, right? The internet is going to change as we know it, and that is going to be led by digital asset ownership. Right? That's at the core of it. And I think the more interesting thing on in this is when companies think about what should they do in Web3, I think Web3 as a solution for solving their original product market fit, right? So I do meet lots of startups who come and say, hey, we are a Web3 startup. I'm like, okay, so what are you doing? Oh yeah, we are doing Web3 stuff, but what are you actually doing? But what are you actually solving? So any business that solves underlying human problems, if they can add Web3 to their portfolio or to their channel strategy or the way to their business model, I think they can unlock a new facet to their business model, right? So that's the most important thing over here. So if in social media, social media is usually, it's a platform economy. If the platform economies are able to monetize the contributors in a different way by creating new ways in which they can find, either new metrics in which they can figure a way out of contributing better, or new ways in which they can create ownership economy for those contributors, I think it's a good thing, right? That's the first part of it. So big organizations, Meta, Google, etc., Microsoft, all of them jumping into this is good, because these are big technology corporations with deep pockets who will have to think about what the next generation of the internet is going to be, and I'm really happy that they are, right. Number one. Number two is, so there is always a point where there's a question between incumbents versus disruptors. And this case, at one point in time, Meta and Google were the disruptors, and there were the big incumbents of telephone directory companies, or whatever other companies that existed that got swallowed. But interestingly, the question that has to be that always is asked is, will incumbents get innovation before disruptors get distribution? So it's the
Wow, that's a
innovation
great.
and disruption question. Okay. So if you see in banking, which is my day job, right? So we see lots of disruptor banks coming into play. The really interesting thing about disruptor banks is they really struggle to get distribution to the scale in which incumbent banks got innovation faster. So the fintech game in some way is almost over, because the original idea was fintech is going to disrupt all the incumbent banks, right? But it's
Yeah.
hard to disrupt that, because there is hubris. Customers don't necessarily want to shift. There is deeply entrenched relationships, loyalty, all of that stuff. So all that incumbent banks needed to do was to create the layer on top, which was the user experience layer, and they swallowed a lot of these, right? That's what we've seen play in most part, and many banks have got smart about it. So I used to be a customer of a really grand old bank in India, and it was my dad's bank, and now I see that bank is just phenomenal user experience, right? All they needed to do was solve their UX, and why will I shift?
I
So
mean,
this is what will
uh,
happen. I think to the point that you make, I think these big organizations will get Web3. It might be slow, it might be tough, but they don't have a choice but to get it, right?
you
Got it.
spoke about a really old bank. Is this the bank which is famous for long lunch breaks?
They were all long lunch breaks, right? So
Great. So I have one fundamental curiosity rather than question. Like when Web2 came, there became a huge gap in talent, where people wanted to hire Android developer, UX, and then that as a core capability and skill set came in. It went down to training centers, university, and people started becoming Android developer, iOS developer, UX designer, all of that. If you're comparing that to Web3, what do you think are the top two or three skill set that is going to rise and in the form of demand, for which talent today do not exist, right? So what do you think would be that space for Web3?
yeah, really good question, right? I think the first big one. Sorry, let me just shut my windows
Yeah.
so it's not making this
While you shut
noise.
down, I believe the Web3 space do not need more podcasters, Ayush. So our podcast will be at risk. But what would be the key skill set or talent which do not
Look,
exist today but should be there?
but here, a really good question, right? So firstly, Web3 will. So the fundamental premise and the fundamental challenge we have with Web3 is information asymmetry, right? more people need to know what the hell is going on. So I think, dudes, your podcast is noble work. So continue doing what you're doing. Don't stop, because Web3 is not here yet. It won't be here for the next decade. I think you've got to keep going. Okay. So please keep going. I think we need more people to tell the story. Okay. So double thumbs up for me as well, right? So keep going, right? So that's number one. Number two, from a hard skills perspective, I think going back to Satoshi Nakamoto's paper, right? I think if digital asset ownership is everything, I think smart contracts will be the way to go forward. I think smart contract coding is probably where people need to go to. Understand how Solidity works, understand how all of these L1 coding works. How can one figure out what is hash rate, and how can one figure out how to manage, anything to do with NFT coding. Uh, that's one thing. That's one big one. The second big one is audience to communities. Community management is a big one. So if there is any opportunity to develop marketing skills in the world of community management, so loyalty programs will change into community programs, right? All of that stuff is super fascinating. So Discord community management, how to Discord may not even exist, but something like that will exist. So if there's an opportunity to create, so to try and understand how to manage audiences in the participation economy, how to manage token development, token delivery, all of that stuff in community gating, all of that stuff will be really good. That's the second one. The third one is, I think, gaming engines, knowing how to build on gaming engines, the likes of Unity, I think will remain. AR, VR, XR will become is what is the first sort of first layer through which we will experience the internet. So that's the real metaverse
Yeah,
stuff, right? I think that is
got it.
all really cool. And the last one is um, I'm very bullish on soul-bound tokens.
Okay.
And I think SBTs will remain, and anybody who can create, can code around SBT ecosystem, or all the future jobs, I think, in the Web3 world.
Got it. Got
Why
it. So if I get drawn,
why
so I
you
don't
so
know.
bullish around SBTs?
Sorry?
Why are you so bullish around SBTs?
Oh, okay. Great question. Look, so I don't know if you watched Ready Player One,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Yes.
right? In
Vishal
that,
quotes this in every podcast. I was thinking I'll tell Vishal, hey, stop talking about Ready Player One now. But okay.
I'm a great fan of their work, but also I'm a great fan of the movie. Ready Player One was the visual representation of metaverse, right? That movie blew my mind, and then seeing a brand out of that was phenomenal. So I keep following their work all the day.
amazing, right?
they,
So
they
look,
should pay me. I think 9 out of 15 podcasts we have mentioned them. We should reach out to them
amazing.
now. It's high time.
That's it, right? What is your favorite quote, Vishal?
From Ready Player One, the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah,
I I think I don't exactly recall quote, but I think I loved the climax part where he was trying to figure out some. I mean, everyone was thinking that the solution would be very complicated, but it was the most simple thing in the world to
yeah.
get the final. I think that was the beauty of the movie. So
So,
I think that
amazing,
stayed.
right? Look. Mine is where he says that people come to the metaverse to do what they can do, but they stay for who they can be,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. I recall that
right?
now.
So this is the reason, right? So look, there is lots of things that you can do in the metaverse, but the metaverse become helping you to augment your identity, to create a digital self of yourself, to live a life that you cannot imagine that you lived, to create a space for yourself which is almost real, is where this is going to go. I think we underestimate the power of digital identities at this point in time, but there is so much that one can do if the digital identity becomes uniquely you. So imagine, right? If the internet can become, all the assets on the internet are unique, and then there's an identity who's you. You can do together. There is a Vishal who's uniquely Vishal in the metaverse. There's no other one. There's one. And now, If you add all of your credentials, all the things that makes you Vishal, right? There are things which are your education, your experiences, your likes, your dislikes, all of that, and you transpose those as elements of your identity onto the digital Vishal, right? So imagine that your university gives you a token that says that
Yeah.
you are an engineer with this kind of credentials. You transfer it. Now your digital identity, whether it's a 3D identity, whether it's a wallet-based identity, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't really matter what it is. You have self-sovereignty over your identity. You own your identity. You only release your identity, your digital twin or wallet or whatever we call it. That entity only releases the identity to who requires it when you give it permission for the time it's required. And that is the beauty of the SBTs. I think this entire SBT ecosystem will need every player, right? Governments, universities, health records, hospitals, schools, utility companies, practically everyone, right? To sort of lean into this. So all your entire history is getting imprinted, and then you release your history as and when you want, to who you want, for how long you want. That's about it, right? So that's where that ecosystem is going to explode from an enterprise perspective. That ecosystem is going to explode from a human needs perspective. I think we are onto something huge in the cusp of changing how businesses operate, right? We're in the cusp of changing how new business models are created just because of that one thing.
Great, great. Vishal, I interrupted you earlier with saying something.
No, no, no. I was just comparing Web 2 to Web 3, like Suresh told, like a blockchain developer would be, or let's say from Web to an Android iOS developer would be a blockchain developer. A UX guy would be a game designer, and a digital marketing guy would be a community manager. I was just drawing parallels between Web 2 and Web 3.
How?
That's it.
So, Suresh, you're a marketer, and I think one of the perfect person to ask this. How should companies go about community management? How can they get this right?
Look, the most interesting thing for big organizations right now is to be able to map away from audiences into thinking of human beings that surround them as community. That's the big leap. Good organizations already think of it that way, right? Except that they don't know how to connect the dots. So the real world loyalty programs, current loyalty programs are what I call captive and extractive. Okay. Why do I say that? Because most loyalty programs are they capture you, they want you, it's not actually loyalty, it's kind of holding you ransom
Yeah.
to using the program over and over again. And it's a linear equation, right? The linear equation is the more you spend, the more rewards you get on the airline or on the hotel or whatever, right? So the ability for an organization to think of not just people who spend money with you, it's also about to think about the entirety of your ecosystem, right? That ecosystem will include your vendors. The ecosystem might include people who are doing research with you. The ecosystem might include people who are your advocates, people who are creating content on your behalf. There are so many of these human beings who surround your organization, and the ability to connect all of them, the ability to connect sort of loyalty 3.0 in some way is the big opportunity. I think companies need to think through how can, and brands need to think through, right? More than companies themselves. The entire brands need to think through how do they play into the um, community ecosystem, and in some ways start using similar metrics slash collectibles slash incentives for all of these, and not just customers who are spending more to get some, in a hotel to get some reward points so that you can utilize them in their own ecosystem. So unlocking that is probably, just reimagining it is probably the biggest opportunity for organizations. Vishal, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. So loyalty has this golden metrics of LTV, lifetime value. I think that should translate into something like an LTC, lifetime contribution. I think
I
that
love
that
it.
that is what should come out.
That is so cool. I think you should patent it, dude.
I should. Maybe I should.
You first heard it on our podcast.
They
That
should
is
already
very
give
cool.
me the 30 under 30 marketer award for this.
And you get from Web3 Marketing Association.
Exactly.
No, as a non-marketer, I have, just trying to act as a devil's advocate.
Sure.
Let's say I go and buy coffee. Let's take Starbucks as an example. As of now, I
Yeah.
get some loyalty points. Hey, you buy this much of coffee, you get this much of discount, which you can use in your next purchase. Now, if they want to make a community or some sort of, they want people to contribute. Right now, let's say out of 100, just throwing numbers, let's say 50% of the people, they like the loyalty program and they wish to enroll for it.
Yeah.
How many people or the customers would want to contribute back to the brand? I'm sure there'll be some fanboys who absolutely love a Starbucks or some other brand, and they would like to go back and maybe create or co-create products or co-create content. But I think that number will be way lesser than people who are using a Web2 or a normal loyalty program.
Agree. Agree. Right. So there'll always be the case, right? So if you look at Twitter or YouTube at this point in time, there are more listeners and viewers than contributors,
Mhm.
right? But the power of the platform is to be what did YouTube do? YouTube monetized the contributors, therefore there are more contributors. What does that do for the platform? The platform just enhances itself because it's a multi-sided platform, right? It's a two-sided, it's a typical platform economy thing. The more contribution, the better the platform gets, and therefore the more the users and viewers are. So in this context, who knows, right? Who knows if suddenly Starbucks in this case or any other coffee chain in this case are opening up for contribution for recipes. Currently, there are some maybe 50 people in their R&D department coming up with recipes. Suddenly, you have 500 people. That's 10x the number of it. 5,000 people. That's 100x. So you're talking about exponential gains in terms of idea generation. Let's say maybe research has 3,000 people on that panel giving you feedback on their coffee. Suddenly, thanks to the contribution economy, you have 30,000 people everywhere giving you feedback on something new. So the ability to fire up exponential contribution is just huge, right? It's just compounding interest. So it's the power of compounding on multiple levels, right? That's number one, right? Then the second unlock here is imagine that I have loyalty points with, let's say, some Hyatt or Marriott or something. I can't use it anywhere else but in Hyatt or Marriott. What if a coffee company, an airline, um, a hotel chain, all of them got together and they unified it and they made it into a token that's transferable, and then I can use a sort of collective loyalty for wherever I want to, and I can also use it for not just using the products and services, but I can use it for other things, right? I can sort of maybe I can take those, buy some hotel rooms, and sort of rent them out at a stage when it is on high demand during, let's say, during Diwali time. So the ability to create platforms out of businesses due to digital asset ownership is probably what gets super exciting. And all of these are connected, right? You can if some of these things can go on chain, then you can see where the value comes from, where it goes. All of this can be programmed and permissionless, so you don't have to hold loyalty programs in a big fat
Right.
SQL server, right? You can have it on chain somewhere, and then it just runs itself, right? You set the laws, the code just manages itself, right?
So the reason I use the example of Starbucks and loyalty is because I mean right now I'm also opening a specialized coffee store in Raipur. So I'll like, okay, cool. I'll take some ideas and maybe implement it there.
But by the way, did you see Starbucks loyalty as of yesterday? It's pumping. It's a
Yeah,
few $1,000s worth.
yeah. Starbucks Odyssey. I think it is one of the first brand who launched their NFT based loyalty.
There's one. I'm not sure if you know Rohas Nagpal, pretty famous educator in the Web3 space here in India. So he launched something known as Learn Tokens. There are
Hmm.
multiple educators in the Web3 space, YouTubers, And if you, let's say, for example, let's say I'm running a course. If you take my course, you complete it, you get some learn tokens, and you can use those same tokens and redeem it for, let's say, your course. Suresh is running some blockchain course. People can go use the tokens, get a discount. And I think that's fantastic.
Really good. This is it, right? I think that any ecosystem can if you can add more things to it, right? Let's say he now branches out to saying tokens for people who are smart contract coders. Then he uses the same token for that. Then somebody else partners with him to say that, hey, there is a base of Web3 aficionados, maybe for Web3 event spaces. So you can see how you can use the same platform to add more services, and the same utility token can go around and create more value and more acceptance within the whole system, right? I think that is where this thing gets really exciting. I think but it's super early days, right? Because
Got it.
there is a big question around. Let's assume that you create these tokens. You are actually in effect creating a currency of some sorts. Now the question is this a security? Is it a currency? Is it a commodity? Let's How does the demand and supply work? I think this is the most interesting thing happening right now, which is between SEC, CFTC. They're all looking at saying, okay, what does this actually mean? How do we get the right kind of guardrails around it so that people don't get cheated, right? I think people don't
Yeah.
understand it. People end up buying tokens. There are rug pulls. I think NFT space is, there's crazy phishing attacks. I don't know if you ever followed, NFT God or Kevin Rose's NFTs getting phished. Some of those things are, even though there are wallets, people don't understand how to use them. They don't know how to say the seed phrase. It's so complex, right? So I mean, you need real technical expertise to be able to keep your NFT safe, to keep your token safe. I think this entire thing needs to change, and in some ways customer protection needs to come in. So as this scales, I think one of the big gaps, and if there's anyone who's building stuff, I think build stuff to protect customers. I think there'll always be an opportunity to grow that.
Yeah. Got it. No, no, that's a great view, and I think today it is very much in the gray zone. That is why majority of the consumer or end user don't explore it because they get confused, and also brands are just scratching the surface. So I totally agree. Slightly changing the direction, we would love to know more about your past experience in this field. I recall a year ago I started following you on LinkedIn, and I got to know that you are the person behind launching the first virtual bank inside Sandbox in the world. So I was like fascinated. We also made a video on that, so it's on our channel. So would love to know more about what are your thoughts on that? What was the vision behind that? And again, a question behind that would be today, would you recommend a user like me to go and buy land in Sandbox or a Decentraland, and how to approach this entire area?
Look, so when I did the Sandbox deal, it was in early days. I think this is when I realized that most of the Web3 stuff is going to be marketing based use cases, right? I think that is where it starts. We took a marketing view on this to create experiences in the Web3 space, which I'm really pleased we did, when we did what we did. And I think in many ways, and I also wrote the first job description for a Metaverse marketing manager, right? And we found a guy, right, who would join a bank as a Metaverse marketing manager, right? So I'm really thrilled that I could do that some of my best
I
days, I think.
I wish I found that.
So we found a OG like you, right, to come and be the Metaverse marketing manager, which was great fun. Even the interview process was really fun, right? So um, so here's the thing, right? So I think there at one there are some things that have worked in the world of the metaverse for big organizations, and there are some things that have not worked, right? What things that have worked are definitely, I think the learning for the organization was huge, because what is metaverse land? It is an NFT, right? It is a smart contract. Eventually, it's a token. So you are it's though the so it is you have to have an organizational wallet. To have an organizational wallet, it has to go through a compliance process. You have to have multi-sig, so that you know who should hold the key. Is it a CFO? Is it the CEO? Is it the CMO? What are the, and then you want a third party to come and build on those in the land. You want a metaverse architect to come and build it. So how do you give them permission to access it? So how do you actually pay a metaverse company? Because any organization doesn't have, you know, the token in their treasury. So just thinking about all these things, the learning curve was literally 90 degrees, right? It was like taking off like this time last year when we first spoke. So I think those are the big plus points. If anything, it's about the number one thing I was about getting my organization and my team to learn a lot about this space. We bought headsets for everyone. We got people to walk around. We got all sorts of stuff. It's just great, brilliant learning, right? 1 year ago, it was still early days for people. Even now, it is in some ways, right? What is interestingly not worked is from a total MAU perspective, these metaverses really don't have footfall. So from a typical marketing metrics, none of these really stack up. Right? So if you're spending a few $100,000 on trying to build something in the metaverse and trying to create experiences there versus spending it on performance marketing, your CFO is always going to say spend it on performance marketing. Spend it on the last mile, get some conversions, spend it on something. So I think if there are listeners, I think I would say that think about it. I mean, all of these NFTs, all of these lands, everything at this point in time, there is no real economics behind most of these. So I would suggest that exercise caution before getting into buying something. There are only a handful that have actually been able to scale, and I would certainly, buying land for an individual is entirely speculative, right? I think I would say that just don't do it, right? Because you're not building your own space unless you're a super aficionado who wants to use a gaming engine and this is what you do and you're going to put night and day to creating a 3D experience that people will come to. Uh, I think it's best left to gaming companies, best left to
Got
large organizational brand experiences. That's my personal view, right? But again, I don't want to give anyone any investment advice. I think people should do what they please.
it. Yeah.
But DYOR, right? Do it at your own risk. Uh, I would refrain caution. I would
Yeah.
refrain, and I would suggest a lot of caution.
Even for
I think
big
this.
brands today, is it fair to say that building these metaverses experience, the ROI that they get is majorly learning and not.
That's right. So look, these metaverse experiences will become mainstream at some point, right? In a different way. So learning now is good because the more people in your organization learn, the ready you will be for when the big leaps happen.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. What I think this again, virtual land became a hype when someone bought land beside Snoop Dogg's house in Sandbox, and this person sold it for 500,000. So it got the hype that you can buy virtual land and sell it and make money. But I think that is died. But I also have this point of view that if my target group or consumer is Gen Zs, investing that money in a Fortnite to build an experience or in a Roblox to build an experience is much better ROI, because that is where these people are and they're spending time. Like Coca-Cola as a brand is doing actively, even Sunsilk as a brand is doing something in Roblox. I think those would be a better choice. What my point of view is on this.
Look, if somebody asks me if they have the money to spend in Web3 space, where should they spend it? I would say spend it in learning. Spend your time, effort, energy doing, building, learning, because even now it's early days, right? If I think education is probably where I would. I mean, it's maybe my middle class Indian mindset, right? It's all about learning, learning, learning.
I mean, not all the companies have time to dedicate resources so that they can learn and fail and experiment. Let's say there's a brand which want to execute something and they want somebody to come in and give the expertise. So what's the best way to find Web3 or Metaverse talent as of now for brands?
Well, I think yeah, this is a tough one, right? Because yeah, I was interviewing the CEO of 9gag recently,
Yeah, for that.
right? And I think this guy is really cool, right? He was absolute legend. and he 9gag is essentially they rode on memes, right? They rode on Web 2. They created memes, they created brand connections to memes, all of that stuff. And the way that he went about it was he wanted to create a brand new team to create whatever the next avatar of 9gag needs to be. So he went and he spent time, right, in Discord channels. He went and met people. He went and had conversations. So if you're a CMO looking at building a Web3 presence, do not take the shortcut. Do what Ray Chan did, right? Go and spend time. Go be in Discord, chat with people, buy an NFT, try to figure out what it looks like, be part of a community, see how what contributors do, see what the community managers do. It is just being there. It's trying to shortcut it is like in the same world when people used to do Facebook strategy through PowerPoint, right? Never having a Facebook account. Oh, I don't have a Facebook account, but this is what I recommend you should do on the platform. Or
Yeah,
people telling about how to do mobile marketing, with a Nokia in their pocket, right? Nokia 3110 in their pocket. So I think that's what it'll look like, right? If they're trying to get some third party agency to build something, there is just no shortcuts, especially when it comes to new technologies. You got to be there. You got to learn it. You got to do it. You got to. I haven't met somebody in the Web3 world who's not got rug pulled. I've not met somebody in the Web3 world whose NFT PFP has not gone down to zero, right? So I think if you're not done that, you don't have the battle scars. If you don't have the battle scars, you don't get the ticket to game. You don't know what you're talking about.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Vishal is saying that with really morose. Dude, what did you buy that went to zero?
I bought an NFT, and that's not a happy story. But it made me learn a lot of stuff around that.
Your
So
ROI
Exactly.
was learning.
That's it. That's it. Middle class Indian mentality, dude. You learned, you're happy.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true.
Anything else,
So
guys?
I think we had a very good discussion. We're almost there, and would love to have you again, Suresh. There's so many questions I had, and which I could not ask because of the time limitation. I'm sure there's gonna be Web3 and Chill with Suresh podcast 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on.
My pleasure.
Loved having you on the platform. Thank you so much. I'm sure our audience takes away a lot of learning from this. And in
Yeah.
case if there's anybody who's interested in joining your Web3 Marketing Association or wishes to contribute, how can they? Or do you need people to start
So
with?
yeah, correct, right? I think yes, we do. Yes, we do need people. We are currently we are slowly opening up for institutional members. So we ideally want organizations to join because organizations are great crucibles to
Yeah,
create change, right?
yeah.
So we want CMOs to bring their organization to play. We have 3 founding organizations who have joined as founder members. Part of that is they will be part of our Metaverse committee. They're part of various other customer protection committee. We will do some CMO research around the space. We are also part of the global Metaverse Standards Forum. So we contribute to the broader community in this way. We are thinking of creating what should be our own, creator economy. How do we create something that will help creators who are creating content to help marketers understand better come to play. We are thinking through that. Currently, it's a dozen people doing this by the side of their desks. So we ideally want senior marketers who are interested in this space to lean in. It's a charity. It's a not-for-profit. None of us are going to make any money out of it. Is genuinely to help build the ecosystem and for marketers to have a voice in developing the next generation of the internet, right? So, look, chaps, really, thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you both, to talk to your community. I won't say audience. I think that's what you're building, and I love the work that you're doing, and the work that you're doing is really noble, right? I think the more people understand the space, the better the space will become, and internet will become a better place that all of us love.
Thank you so much. And to our community, please
Yeah.
reach out to us or Suresh if you're interested to know anything
Mhm.
more about any subjects we could contribute at. Thank you so much for
Thank you
watching.
so much. And
Thank
please
you,
don't
folks. Thanks,
forget to
everyone.
subscribe.